It's a birthday. Happy birthday to Nikola Jokic. He turned 30 on Wednesday. We're doing this podcast on Thursday as the Denver Nuggets kick off the second half of their season. I thought I'd bring out my little celebratory. I don't know if that's a kazoo. I don't know what that is called technically, but we are celebrating Nikola Jokic today, the greatest player. Not disputable. He is the greatest player in Denver Nuggets history already at age 30. And, just personally, I turned 30 this year as well. So kind of, I feel like I have some ability to relate to the perspective of turning 30 here a little bit, like what might be going through his mind. Obviously, he's from a far different culture than I am, but it's just a time to reflect, no doubt. The big number, the even number birthdays, the round number birthdays are something to think about, no doubt. So Jokic hits 30. Where are the Denver Nuggets going from here? Where is Nikola Jokic going from here? That's something we're going to talk about on today's Mile High Hoops podcast with me, Jake Shapiro. But first, I wanted to take a look back and reflect a little bit as we hit a new chapter of Nikola Jokic's life. He welcomed his second child this year. Let's look back at some of the best times of Nikola Jokic thus far. And I thought it was just telling of Nikola Jokic that the NBA released the 30 best plays of Nikola Jokic's career so far for his 30th birthday, which he makes these great plays every night, so much so that a play from last Monday night against Portland was on the list of top 30s. But what was even more telling was the second video NBA uploaded, which was 3 hours of Nikola Jokic absolutely dominating in the clutch. And that's our guy, right? He's just nails when it comes to clutch time. Right now, he is the odds-on favorite to win the clutch player of the year. I don't think anyone really cares about that one. Not necessarily the MVP. They just want to see Jokic capture another title, and it's because of a lot of the clutch play that Jokic is able to accomplish that. I was looking at some numbers, and I'll get into that on the back half of the podcast, but the thing that struck out to me just initially for this part of the podcast is, remember when Jokic shot so well from three for the playoffs en route to the title over the 20 games? Well, he's doing that for the full season this year because everyone's like, well, where's this Jokic shooting bump come from? And I was trying to find it. And I know he's made some refinements to his shot, but I was like, I don't think that this is that unheard of. I mean, over an extended stretch, sure. But Jokic did shoot this well in the championship run. And I think that's something to remember. So speaking of memories and remembering, I wanted to go over the best Nikola Jokic moment. What is your favorite? Please hit the comments, flood the comments with that, flood my social media. I want to relive some of the best of our favorite player probably ever here in Denver. What sticks out to you? What just is the first memory for Nikola Jokic with you? And I'm going to start with off the floor. So I was obviously blessed enough to be not only in the building, but literally in the rooms when the Nuggets won the championship. And the famous quote of, no, I want to go home when it's parade. No, no. I was in the room for, and that question was asked by one of my colleagues here at Denver Sports. And it was just such a funny moment. And I was lucky to even be in the room, because to give you the backstory of what I do post game is I kind of bounce around between the locker room and the press conference room. And a lot of times if I have to make a decision of one or the other, well, the press conference is recorded. I can go back and hopefully someone asks the question I want to ask. And that night I was blessed because I had two colleagues in the room at the press conference, and I was just told to be in the locker room, where I was getting videos. I was getting sprayed by champagne. Michael Porter Jr. was all over me. It was a lot of fun. But I heard Jokic was talking. I hadn't seen Jokic yet after they had won. Like, he was not in the main room where the guys were celebrating, where I was. So I was like, all right, I'm going to go back and hear what Jokic has to say. And so I heard him say that quote. Gosh, I should have worn the shirt with him saying that quote. That would have been better, but I am wearing a Jokic shirt. And obviously, it's just a legendary quote. And then a couple days later, I'm literally in the Nuggets parade. I didn't know I was going to be in the parade. Like, I mean, I wasn't like in the parade in terms of like on the fire trucks and whatever, but I was walking down the street next to the fire trucks. I thought I just had all access pass and I was going to be like standing in a corner and I was going to have like a special, photo opportunity. No, I got to walk the entire route in front of Jokic and Jamal's truck. And I made the conscious choice to stay in front of their truck the entire time. I went back and forth a little tiny bit, got AG, got KCP, walked ahead, got Malone for a second, but I was really in front of Jokic because I wanted to see how he reacted. Because the theory at the time was he didn't really know how much he was appreciated by the city of Denver. And you could see it pouring over his face throughout that entire day. And I still have to this day my pinned tweet on X or Twitter, whatever you call it, is Jokic coming to this like deep realization of how much this means to him and how much this means to Denver to win. And I think it was a break of character for Jokic, who is this guy who's surly and doesn't want to be here and wants to go to Serbia and blah, 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 all that stuff that comes out nationally, right? I think we saw a break in his character that day. Not in terms of like character as like good or bad person, but like the character he puts out into the media, right? The role he plays. And we saw like the true love of Nikola, which is displayed throughout Mike Singer's book. And that's what stuck out to me that day. So that's leading up to them going up on stage where he just flat out says, I want to stay on the parade. And that's the Jokic moment that will always stick with me because I cover these athletes. I love sports, obviously. My middle name is literally Jordan. I love basketball. I come from people who love basketball. And I love watching these guys play basketball. But I got into this because I love the personalities who play the sports. And that was the maybe most telling personal moment of Nikola Jokic's career to this point. And it might be that moving forward. I thought the details in Bennett's story in the Denver Post the other day about his partying after winning bronze, the Olympics, was just terrific. I've gotten so many off the cuff moments with Jokic from him calling me brother, which is pretty cool. And just having some back and forth on questions. So all that off the floor stuff, fun. Fortunately, everyone got to see the I want to stay on parade moment because they got that awesome moment of really getting to know Jokic and party with Jokic. Like the whole city of Denver got to party with Jokic. That was so cool. We got that. And I think that's what makes a parade cool, right? Is like we get to party with our favorite athletes for a couple days and celebrate their accomplishment and our civic love of what they've accomplished. On the court, no doubt about my favorite Jokic moment. There's a couple that rank up there, and I'll go through them all. I'm just going to start with my favorite Jokic moment of all time. I'm in LA, Western Conference Finals, and Jokic has already hit some shots in this series against Anthony Davis where he's just laughed at and is like, I don't know what I can do. Well, when it's the end of a closeout game and Jokic is stepping back and hitting those shots in the face of Anthony Davis, it's no longer funny because his season is on the line and he's going home. And that shot he hits from the left wing on Anthony Davis that was called a 2 but was clearly a 3. I'm sitting with my boy from Mile High Sports and Shapiro, and we just lost our minds. Like, this is the Nuggets are going to sweep the Lakers. They've never beaten the Lakers in a playoff series. And this guy on this incredible shot just put the dagger in the Lakers. That's my favorite Nikola Jokic moment. It was awesome. And then afterwards, we're in the locker room. We're seeing the guys celebrate. Novak Djokovic is in the house. Like, the celebrities are out to see Joker. And what it meant for the Nuggets to beat the Lakers, winning the title was a whole other level, but it felt like just there was so much building to the Nuggets beating the Lakers, right? It was years and years and decades of frustration and pain against this one franchise. And to do it against LeBron James, to take away LeBron's last legitimate chance at an NBA Finals, one of the legends of the sport. Another level. And I'm in the press conference afterwards covering the Lakers side of things because, we had other people, and I'm our basketball guy, right? Like I'm a little bit more suited to cover things going on in basketball away from Nuggets. A lot of the people at our workplace are suited to cover the Nuggets because they know all the storylines, right? But it's my job to follow everything going on in basketball. So it was an easy thing. They just said, Jake, go cover the Lakers instead of the Nuggets for this series. And I said, cool, no problem. So I was getting the Lakers angle. So I'm in the room when LeBron's threatening to retire. Tick, tick. 2 years later, LeBron hasn't retired. We don't have any notion LeBron's going to retire, right? But Jokic beat him that bad where LeBron was considering just ending his basketball career, or at least talked about it because he needed the attention of it. That was awesome. That entire night was just awesome. I'll never forget how I spent it afterwards as well. It was maybe until what happened a couple days and weeks later in winning the championship was probably the top moment in Nuggets history. And that was so cool. And, the Heat series just really wasn't that close. I go always back to game 3, which was more of a Jamal and Joker moment where they both have the 30-point triple doubles and steal back home court advantage. And from that point, it was just gravy, right? But there was never really a close game in that series. The final game was a close game, but it sucked. We'll always have that Porter layup and the KCP steal. But hard to pick a Joker moment specifically from that series. To me, the moment of that playoff run for Joker is the couple shots over Anthony Davis. And because he did it in LA like that, that's the one I pick. Some other candidates I have. Last year, that comeback against Golden State, where they're like down 107, 124. I watched the entire comeback a couple nights ago, like basket by basket. And it ends with Jokic hitting the buzzer beater from half court over his head. And the only time we've seen him on the floor besides winning the championship just absolutely lose it. I think he was stunned, right? Like most of the things he does on the court, he's like, well, I've practiced this, I can do it. Not that, he was stunned, which is funny because he hit the full court shot this year. Another one of my favorite Jokic moments. And he's no big deal. I've done that before. I asked him, he hadn't done that before. Not in practice, never done that before. A couple of other favorite Jokic moments. The game winner in the bubble, game 7 against the Jazz, with like 30 seconds left. He hits that post shot right before that insane sequence where Mike Conley almost won it for the Jazz, but Nuggets move on, and that completes a 3-1 comeback, which is extremely rare in the NBA. The first of what became 2 3-1 comebacks for the Denver Nuggets in the bubble. To me, I was in the house for this one, and this was before I was even covering the team in a full capacity. I was just doing some work, on the side and some freelance work. But I went to the game with one of my best friends, Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic. I was one of the rare people that actually got to see this in Denver back in 2019, Embiid's last game in Denver. Nuggets were down 21 in the fourth quarter, and they came back and won it because of a Jokic buzzer beater that he is still probably incessant about, that he got fouled and should have been an and one. I love the Marlowe calls on some of these. It's just like, oh my God, Nikola. Like there's nothing else to say. Shout out Marlowe, you're the best. But yeah, that was one of my favorite Jokic moments, as was, again, sitting on the same side of the arena, very similar seats with my now wife at the time, my girlfriend, and seeing Jokic hit AG in that corner off of one of the best passes I've ever seen in person. And I go to a lot of basketball games, and that is one of the best passes I've ever seen in person. AG drills the 3. Nuggets win against the Clippers in overtime. That was one of my favorite Jokic moments, and it capped one of his best games of his career. Same with what I believe to be maybe his best playoff game of his career, which it's unfortunate because they didn't win the series. But I thought game 5 against Minnesota last year against Rudy Gobert was the best game of Nikola Jokic's career in the playoffs. If you go back and look at it, in that game 5, he went for 40, 13, and 7 on 15 of 22 with 2 of 3 threes and 8 and 9 at the line. Was a plus 21 and just completely dominated as the Nuggets, sped away. And it seemed like, all they need to do is steal one in Minnesota or win one at home, and they're going to do that and be fine. And you thought, okay, we're going to run it back. Obviously, that's where the peak of that season ended. But those are my favorite Jokic moments. Again, hit me with your favorite Jokic moments. And I'm going to turn it a little bit to the future because I found out about some Jokic news yesterday that I didn't even realize. And I don't think most people realize. It's not necessarily news in the sense that something happened, but it's something that I didn't realize. And I don't think a lot of people realized. Nikola Jokic can actually sign a 3-year contract extension worth $212 million this offseason. I didn't expect that because obviously he had just signed the Supermax like 2 years ago, which was for 5 years, and he had already had a year left on the deal. So if he tears up his option for the 27-28 season, he can sign that 3-year extension, which would be worth about $70 million per year, and he would be signed through 2029, 2030. Which is about right? Because it'll be his age 34 season, I think, or age 33 season, somewhere in there. Age 34. It'd be his age 34 season, and that makes sense to where he's at in his career and what a lot of people think is next. I think he's for sure signing at least one more contract with the Nuggets. I don't know if he's going to sign that extension because I don't know how it works if you tear up the last year of a Supermax, if you still are eligible for the Supermax, whereas if he waited like another year, could he be eligible for a stronger extension? So obviously Nuggets fans shouldn't be that concerned if Jokic does or doesn't sign this extension. But point being is he's probably going to be inked through 2030 or 2031 here very shortly within the next year or so. Obviously, there's some stuff going on with the Nuggets championship window. That's something I think we should look at as well in this. It all revolves around Jokic, but just what's going on around is MPJ is a free agent after not next season, but the one after, which is 26-27. So the Nuggets can run it back next year with the core 4 guys with no ramifications, no worry about a guy leaving after the year. So I think they're going to run it back next year too. There's some reason to believe that maybe one of the 4 guys will get traded, but we're going to see this summer and how this postseason plays out. AG's cap number goes up huge in 26-27, which is, again, the last year of Mike's contract. And, you might think, okay, well, then the Nuggets can assemble, the Avengers that year because they're going to have some free money. No. That's the first year that Christian Braun and Peyton Watson's non-rookie deals will kick in. So both those guys are going to get extensions. I've seen some ludicrous numbers thrown out for Christian Braun because he's earned it. It's not ludicrous because, it's unseemly to Christian. He's earned it. It's just ludicrous to think about that much money going to Christian Braun when, he was a reserve player a year ago. But again, he's earned it. So Peyton Watson's going to get a huge extension. Christian Braun's going to get a huge extension. And the Nuggets are going to have some decisions to make. Point being, in my opinion, right now, as I look at it today, the Nuggets have a chance at a championship this year. It's not a great chance because Oklahoma City looks so good. I would say maybe 5% chance, which is really fantastic, honestly. Even Oklahoma City and Cleveland, what are their chances? Maybe 20, 10%? Like, it's not that high. So maybe 5% chance at winning the championship this year. I think next year, especially with the way the cap breaks down and what Nikola Jokic's level has been this year, I'm going to say that's part of the championship window. Beyond that, it's kind of hard to see. I'm not saying it closes after next year. Don't get my words wrong. I'm just saying it's hard to see exactly how things are going to shape out because you don't know which one of these core 4 guys they might trade this summer, if they're going to run it back. If they do run it back, then I would say they have another year of that championship window. It just gets a little confusing because what do you do with Michael Porter Jr.? Are you going to extend him again? Do you make the trade? Do you trade one of the other guys? I don't know. So the key part of the championship window conversation, obviously, is the level Nikola Jokic is playing at. And right now is technically his age 29 season, even though he turned 30. So I looked at every single big man comp Basketball Reference had for Nikola Jokic through this point in his career. So by win share, by season, progression, how they grow throughout the course of 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, right? And what those players did moving forward in terms of win shares, which imperfect stat, but gives you a good idea of the player value of all of these guys moving forward. So I took a sample of basically all Hall of Famers except for one guy who's going to make the Hall of Fame. The first guy I compared Jokic to was Shaq, who was playing at an MVP level through age 32. A lot of people remember the end of Shaq's career as a disaster. He was actually pretty good and efficient in limited spots, but that was like at age 36 and age 35. Through his age 32 season, Shaq was playing at MVP level. So that means if Nikola Jokic's career is like Shaq's, which I don't think it is, because Shaq was all athleticism and Nikola Jokic is the opposite, but they've got love for each other. Jokic would have 30, 31, 32, 3 more years after this one of playing at an MVP caliber level. So I think that's good news. I looked at Bill Russell. Bill Russell was playing at an MVP caliber level through his final season in the NBA at age 34. That's just one of the 10 greatest players in NBA history. That's part of the deal. Walt Bellamy, who's one of the greatest players in NBA history, who often gets forgotten about, age 29 season was his end. He gets traded from New York and is never the same again. So different circumstances, right? Because he didn't stay with the same team. Shaq bounced around, was able to fight through it. Bill Russell never left the Celtics. Ed McCauley, great player, Hall of Famer, barely an all-star even at age 28. He's done at age 30. So that's the bad side of these comps. Dan Issel, MVP caliber player, numbers up in the rafters, through age 33. And he had 3 more years after that where he was good. So Dan Issel was playing at a very good level through age 36. And there's a case to be made here that, kind of like Alexander Ovechkin in the NHL recently, if the Nuggets can find a way to get a player better than Jokic in when Jokic kind of starts to fade, Tim Duncan and Kawhi Leonard, Jokic can be the second option on that team and they can still win a title. Now we're looking at it built around, Jokic, because obviously the Nuggets don't have the prospects for that second best player anytime soon. I mean, cross your fingers if you want that guy to be Luka Doncic to be after next season, but a lot of things have to change. So as of right now, we're assuming Jokic has to be the best player on the team. Artis Gilmore, legendary big, probably Shaq before Shaq. He was really, really good through age 35, 36. And then he had a steep drop off, right? Like Shaq. It was kind of just over for Artis Gilmore. But 35, 36, that's still quite a while for Jokic. Moses Malone, 3-time MVP, 1-time champion. Similar statistics to Nikola Jokic. But an athleticism-driven player. A lot of dunks. MVP level through age 33. Then he had 3 more decent years after that. Playing at a high level to age 36. Hakeem, the dream. Better defender than Jokic. Same type of post game, right? MVP level through age 32. Great through age 34. Was very good through age 36 and still had a very good year at age 38. Then there's the non-Hall of Famer on this list who should be in the Hall of Fame, and it's Dwight. Dwight Howard was an MVP level player through age 25 and then just dropped off the face of the earth. He comes back and is good to great in spurts through age 34, but anyone who remembers recent NBA history knows that Dwight Howard was not the same player after his penultimate season with the Magic. He was just not that guy. And then there's one guy on this list I looked at who doesn't match up with the big men thing, but he's the only player comp to Jokic in terms of statistical comparison. And that is because both these guys are the only 2 guys in NBA history to average 20 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists a game for their entire NBA career. And that is Larry Bird, who was an MVP caliber player through age 31, gets hurt, back is really just not the same, but he still has 3 more good seasons until he's 35, and then he retires. So what can we learn from this? We can learn that a lot of those players are really athletically based. The one guy on this list who's definitely not is Larry Bird, who faced a major injury, so there's still not a great comp for Jokic. But you can pretty confidently say Jokic is going to play at an MVP caliber level through the rest of this season, through his age 30 season, through his age 31 season, and maybe to his age 32 season. So that means we're getting a couple more years of this. I'm pretty confident in saying Jokic's aging curve is going to be different than these guys because he's not a jump-based player. He's not a dunking player. He plays through his smarts. I do think it gets a little overlooked about how athletic Jokic is because his hand-eye coordination is so great, and that's going to go a little bit, and that's part of what makes his game so great is his ability to suction cup rebounds and, tip passes and stuff like that. So I do think that some of the aspects of Jokic's game that people wouldn't associate with aging is actually going to be affected. And yet I do expect his game to still be good to great through age 35, 36 if he wants to stay around. And that puts us through 2030, 2031, right in line where the contract is. And I don't think Jokic is going to be one of those guys that hangs on and is like, Udonis Haslem or Dwayne Wade who bounced around at the NBA's, at the end of his NBA career, or Chris Paul right now. I don't even think Jokic is going to be LeBron James necessarily. And even if he's playing at a great level, is going to hang on until he's 40. It's going to be hard to say no because the contract is literally going to be worth $500 million at that age. So we'll see. But that's just a brief outlook on Jokic's career. And I don't mean to go like, oh, it's so close to the end. My point is to tell you, we're not close to the end. A lot of people would think that we are close to the end with Nikola Jokic because he just turned 30. I just gave you the player comps. Big men, Larry Bird. He's got a couple more years of being an MVP caliber player, which means the Nuggets have a championship window of at least a few more years. So the greatest player in Nuggets history is going to continue to be great for a few more years. And we're going to cover all of it here on the Mile High Hoops podcast. So make sure you subscribe and like to Denver Sports on YouTube. I'm Jake Shapiro. Make sure you read whatever I have to write about their matchup with the Charlotte Hornets later tonight.